Saint Clair, are we getting another Nun movie? Hopefully not, please. No, we need a pause on that. Anyway, let's see. Let's see if this is a Nun movie or not. Starting with the IMDb plot. In a small town, a solitary woman is haunted by voices that lead her to assassinate ill-intended people and get away with it. All right. Until her last kill sucks her down a rabbit hole riddled with corruption, trafficking, and visions from beyond, from the beyond. She's a killer nun? No, okay, maybe not. Anyway, maybe that would have been more interesting than some of the other stuff that we've recently seen. Anyway, yeah, no nuns here. No, it's not about that. You have a different story going on here, obviously. This one is a new one. I guess it was I think it had hit some festivals prior to this, but I guess it's been released in some theaters and on digital. So since it is fairly new, we'll try to keep this fairly spoiler free. I'm probably going to mention a plot point or two just because I want to talk about it and so forth, which might give away one or two things about the film. But again, not a lot of huge twists and turns here. Maybe a little bit, and I'll try to leave that for you guys to see. But there's one or two things that are going on here that I will mention. So not a complete huge spoiler, not really ruining it, but I guess let you know, because I kind of have to let you know what because I kind of like that part. Something. So take that with what you will. That is your alert there. So yeah, this one, I had put out a press release on Promote for it, shared it a couple of times, but really, wasn't one that kind of grabbed me, to start. Wasn't really sure. But I came across it again, and then I'm like, okay, we'll give this a chance and see what happens here. So you get introduced to Claire early on. Obviously, there's a little bit kind of a dream sequence to kind of start off the movie, to kind of fill you in on a little bit of her headspace there, and she does kind of wander off. Have a couple of moments of these dream sequences, if you want to call them, or memories and so forth. That is going to happen, a few times within this story here. Obviously, the one that kind of starts off the movie kind of sets the tone and is important to her. And I think, each one is kind of important, to her in certain ways, to who she is. And who is she? And we'll get into that in a second. But, it starts off, she's in college. At first I thought maybe she was high school, but I guess it is college that she's in. And, she's, doing her thing. I guess she's new to the area. She lives with, I believe it's her grandmother. And, she's made a couple of friends, but not too many. And again, being new and being, I guess a tad odd, she's definitely, I don't think going out of her way to make too many friends, but she has made, a couple. That's kind of the way, she is, and we see her early on, and she's at a bus stop, and she's kind of waiting. And I really, I'll just tell you what happens, and then we'll go through what I kind of like here. She's kind of waiting at the bus stop there, and just there, and a couple of girls walk by and kind of point out to her that there's no bus coming, and there's a sign, and she obviously didn't see it. So then, moments later, a really creepy dude kind of pulls up and encourages her, goes through the whole 9 yards to get her to get in this car, and you kind of look at her, and she seems kind of smart about it, and you're kind of like, okay, she's no way she's getting in this car, and then she gets in the car, you're like, okay. But she, like I said, she's kind of smart about it, and yeah, let's just say she comes out on top of the situation. And in a way that's becomes, obviously she's the main character. She's not obviously going to die or anything in the beginning, but there's a lot of directions the movie could have gone from that point. Uh, but she's gonna clearly come up on top and move on from this. It is important to the overall story, but I'm not gonna go into all the details. Uh, but I was, that immediately kind of had me. I'm like, okay, now I'm interested in what is really going on here with this young woman. Um, and as we see her, there's a couple of things. She is a touch religious, and I guess it is a Catholic school, I believe, that she's in. And there's a kind of, she does try to get in touch with God. There's a phrase that she continues to kind of say in her head, so that kind of plays a role in it too, um, in what's going on with her. And I guess as you find out that she's, because of this event that you see kind of in her past, she's kind of taken it upon herself to not let people she loves kind of become a victim. So if you're on her side, if you're someone that she loves, she's not going to be afraid to go to, I guess, extreme measures to ensure your safety. In a way, you can say, oh well, that makes it almost sound like this could be an action movie, and I think you could think that, but I don't think it doesn't really go down that hole. I think it kind of stays to that kind of horror thriller kind of thing. Maybe a different kind of horror. I guess a horror more tilted to a thriller. There's some, I guess the bigger scope here is that she's kind of moved to a town where girls have gone missing, and it's a thing that's been going on for several years now, and it doesn't seem to be as high a priority in this town as some would hope. And when someone goes missing that she kind of sees, and she's like, well, I didn't gather that she necessarily knew this girl, but I guess it struck a chord with her. She begins to kind of put some thought into it, and then with the guy that she just like I said came on top of that situation. The police are very eager to kind of figure out what happened to him and whatever. That kind of triggers things into, why are you looking for this guy so intently? And, this girl and other girls have gone missing, and, there doesn't seem to be the same eagerness to find them. And before you know it, I guess Claire kind of stumbles upon this whole thing of what has really been going on in this town and why, girls are missing. And I guess it becomes very close to her and some of the people around her, so she kind of gets all raveled up into it. And I guess that's the best way of kind of keeping it kind of spoiler free and telling you what's going on here. So a couple of things about the film. Like I said, that kind of opening scene, with her, with this guy, the way it plays out, I guess if you wanted to give a video of what, maybe a person who's kind of in the same situation should do and not should do, obviously not get in the car. That was don't get in the car. But, as he pulls up and there's this back and forth, it's a very intriguing scene because, he's trying to give you, all the different things he can give you to get her to get into this car. And she's answering him very smartly without kind of going overboard, without, being, extremely, maybe rude or this. But, she's basically, giving him questions back at each kind of turn that he's, telling her this and that to get in the car. She obviously knows what he's up to. She obviously knows, what is, she's thinking when she's getting in this car. So there's no mystery there. But, it just, to me, that that had me, kind of really, settled in. While I was not sure what I was about to watch, after seeing that, I was very intrigued with her character. I'm like, okay. Um, and I think as you go along with this movie, you see that even though she's got some issues and clearly traumatized by the event, like I said, there's an event that you'll find out more about as the movie goes on that happened to her when she was very young. Um, I don't know. There was just something about her character, that guys that I don't, always gravitate to characters. And I guess this one you kind of have to figure it out with her, whether you like her or not, because, she is the main character. The movie is a lot on her and not, in a group setting where you can just, don't really care when do they all die kind of situation. But I was very into to this character, and I think, one of the things is that, yeah, she has her issues. Yeah, she has her thing in the past. But this isn't necessarily a character of a young woman who is weak, at least, and it's not a, coming, in a way it still is, but, it's not, of a coming of age kind of story where, oh, sad, oh, she's beat down and whatever, and everybody's taking advantage of her, and then she's overcome. No, this girl has something in her, and she has a strength, and she's not afraid, and it comes from a different direction. Again, she does have her issues. Yeah, like she's still affected by things that happened in her past. But I liked that they didn't really just dumb her down and have to take her so low and then bring her so high. No, they started off. You see her with her smarts and her strength. Even though, yeah, she is going to have a moment or two of weakness in the movie, and like I said, she is going to have her struggles. But I think giving her that strength immediately and you always going back to it is a good thing, and a little bit of a different thing than kind of someone who you're just like, oh, whatever, blah blah, and then they overcome. We've seen that a lot. So I was kind of glued in on her, in that moment, and then afterwards, a very kind of, comedic kind of thing they kind of add, and I guess it's a little bit of importance to her, and also gives you a little background on her. And this is maybe a small spoiler, because, when it kind of is introduced, you don't really know, but it. And okay, well, he's not really a victim per se, but apparently, as the movie goes on, you figure out that she's, saved people on more than one occasion. You want to call her a hero or whatever you want to call her, but she's like I said, not afraid, and she's apparently saved other people, as you find out as the movie goes on. And saved means doing bad things to the bad person, whether they're killed or injured or whatever. You see a scene also early on where she randomly sees this guy there, and you're like, what the hell? And it turns out he's a ghost, and she talks to him, and it's a ghost or a figment of her imagination or just her conscious, maybe a combination of them all. He does become slightly important. He does, help her out again, whether you want to take him as a true ghost or you want to take her as, just a thing that, subconsciously with her that helps her out. But, I mean, he does help. So, to me, I kind of lean ghost because there's a moment or two where he may foreshadow some things for her where, I don't think she would have known otherwise. But, she does have some conversations with him, and it, he's not there, from that point on, and that's not the central thing of the movie that, oh, she's with the ghost now solving all these things. But I thought it was just an interesting add, too, as well. And also a little bit of a comic relief in some of the things that are said between them, too, in certain moments. So it is a good, kind of other character for her to kind of talk to about her situation and so forth. Obviously, none of her friends or the few friends she has she's telling, what she is, or, who she really is, and so forth. So I thought that was a nice little added touch there, and not overused as well. They didn't lean on it too much. I think, they gave you a touch of it, once it's introduced, but then kind of does away with it when it's needed, and then used it again when it is needed. So I thought that was well played, and kind of unexpected addition to the film, and what was going on. You do get to also see, the events, how this ghost ended up to be and be attached to her. So you see that as well. So and they don't overdo that. It's a quick kind of scene as well. So again, importance, because it shows what another thing for her and what she's gone through, and added to her character, and obviously importance of where she's going. So as far as kind of unraveling this mystery that happens, yeah, I think there's one or two things that were kind of fairly obvious, and then I think they did a good job of giving you one or two things that were not. I think one of them was, one of the twists was kind of obvious. But then I think, there's obviously a certain set of characters they give you, and I think that there were others that were not so obvious, or that you thought, okay, they may have done this or that, and it turned out that maybe they didn't. So I thought they did that pretty well, kind of keeping you, maybe you knew one thing, or at least I knew one thing, but giving you other things that maybe you're waiting to see, was I correct or not, and I think most of those I was not. So I kind of nailed one, and everything else was not so much. I thought the woman who played Clare did an excellent job. Like I said, a lot of it is the character, but I thought she did a really good job as well. In this role, and carrying the film in large part of it. I don't know much of the action scenes she did or not did. Not huge action, but I think especially towards the end it does get a little intense and crazy. But between the character and her acting, it just really got into this character and what she was doing, and her mission here. And like I said, it could have gone kind of the route of an action film, but it really kind of stayed more in the mystery thriller thing. So I'm glad they kind of held that to the point, and I liked where they went with it, the story, and kind of how it unfolded and so forth. I don't want to be too specific. I don't want to give anything away. Let you guys kind of enjoy that mystery as it goes for itself. So I have to say, to kind of wrap this up, I was pleasantly surprised by the movie. I really enjoyed it. Again, really enjoyed her character, and what they brought to the table with it, and what she did, and her just fearlessness. Even though she could have had those moments of just crumbling and so forth, she made it through, and she gathered strength at every time that she needed to. And I don't know, I just viewed her in a little different than some of the characters that we might have seen. Usually, partake like in a slasher, you just see them, maybe yelling and screaming and whatever. And then when you kind of narrow it down and you get that final girl, then it comes to that point where it kind of kicks in. We're like, no, I have to survive this and whatever. But this girl, you kind of knew she was a survivor from the beginning, and that was nice. And we've, I'm not gonna say we haven't seen kind of characters like this. We've seen, several characters over the recent years, particularly women, be survivors from the start. But I don't know. There was just something about this character that I really liked, and I guess maybe it was really that beginning scene there, and how she kind of handled that. And how the movie kind of handled it, as opposed to, oh, okay, I'll get in the car, and then, all this bad stuff that could have happened. But yeah, I have to say I was pleasantly surprised, not too many complaints about it. and was very happy when the movie ended, that I gave it a chance. So, I know, I was just looking here on IMDb, not a lot of people have kind of rated it yet, and not a lot of people have probably seen it. And I guess, I think it had a 4 point something in the rating. So I'm a little disappointed in that. Again, probably not going to get a huge fanfare. I will probably, now that I've seen it, share it a little bit more since I liked it. I will tend to do that. So if I liked your movie, might share it a little bit more than others. But again, I think it will, definitely fly under the radar. Probably won't get talked about a lot. But I certainly enjoyed it. Enjoyed the story. Enjoyed her character. Enjoyed what they gave me here in this one. I guess the final moment was, I probably wanted to see a little bit more, and I guess they left that final moment a little open. I would have, wanted to see, I guess, that, I guess, one thing I can complain about, but I kind of see, why they ended it that way. But I just wanted to see, just a little bit more better closure there, but whatever, it's fine. So at the end of the day, I think I'm going to give this one 4 pools of blood. I can't help it. I enjoyed it. If I enjoyed it, it is what it is. Will it be on the top 10 list at the end of the year just because it got 4 pools of blood? I don't think so, unless I decide, it is just one that I have to throw in there to kind of, give it a bump there and help it out. But, I think 4 pools of blood out of 5, because I can't help it. I watched it, I enjoyed it, and that's what it is. So with that, horrorsgoryreviews.blogspot.com is where you can catch all my reviews written in video. Certainly tons of video reviews for a while now, so you can like and subscribe and do everything else that everybody wants to do here on YouTube. If not, no worries, it is okay. I thank you for your time regardless. Twitter, Facebook, information down below as well. Join me there, talk about horror, other things, things you want me to review, and definitely in the comment section, if you eventually stumble upon the movie and you like it or hate it or whatever, feel free to throw your thoughts in there. But if you do come across it, I hope you give it a chance, and I hope you like it as much as I did. This is a surprise one for me. So with that, I'll catch you on the next review, horror fans.